Bank holiday Monday or public holiday Monday, Halloween Monday, the 27th of October 2025, and it's good weather, a bright sky, not necessarily sunshine. And this wall, somebody commented on it, it's well over 100 years old. I checked it before, but it's old, very old. Anyway, very well built with lime and sand, lime mortar and stones, of which there were plenty in this area. Now, if it was kept roofed, it would last forever with little maintenance. And the walls are unusually dry because of the lime and sand mortar. Now, just a few items of news. Somebody there poured scorn on my talking about the bird flu epidemic in Germany. The best and most reliable reports available is that there have been 400,000 domestic birds slaughtered. 400,000, a 0.4 of a million. And existing producers that are not impacted are not allowed to sell their products. So it looks like there's going to be an acute shortage of poultry products in Germany this winter, including the Christmas period. If it doesn't hit in Ireland, it should be a boost for Irish producers, but then they are mostly at maximum capacity. Now, the Department of Agriculture covers poultry in Ireland, and it does a relatively good job. As well as that, there are a few producers who are very exacting in how they produce their poultry. Maybe not the way everyone would like, but still they do their best. Now, I would say that there is a total ban on releasing hens and chickens outside this weather for the production of eggs, and by right there should be no free range eggs unless the hens are out and about. But unfortunately, if the hens go out and about and they mix with wild birds, they could contract bird flu, and you'd have a severe problem. It is an unbelievable problem, very, 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 very significant hit, and it will hit the German economy and all of that. So I'm just bringing it to your attention. It is not a scam, it's real. 1,000 cranes died, wild cranes dropped dead, and the public services the voluntary services weren't able to go on anymore. They had to bring in state help to gather up the birds with protective clothing, because there is a small but not insignificant risk of it spreading to humans. Okay, you have that. Now, the other thing is that the war in Ukraine is going ahead. Puck-Urst is being badly decimated. The Russians are actually doing unbelievably well in their war of attrition, a slow grinding war to wear down the Ukrainian resolve. Now, the best way I could describe it is when you hear about the war in Ukraine, and it's not a good example. If you think of the Ukraine being roughly the shape of County Monaghan, I think most of you will know the shape of County Monaghan. The Odessa is where Carrickmacross is, the most southerly point on the port of the Black Sea. So where the Russians have taken over would be Castleblaney, Dunamine, Castleblaney. Not necessarily up as far as Monaghan, but definitely up as far as Castleshane, and inwards as far as Ballybay. And that's about it. They haven't taken over the whole western part of the Ukraine, but they're fighting for those two provinces, which are primarily Russian-speaking. Now, it's a very nasty war at this stage. The Ukrainians are suffering terribly. It is terrible suffering, and the Europeans are sticking to their guns. They're going to beat Russia, which is delusion. And I spoke before, Trump has probably been persuaded to join in, but I don't think that will happen. Now, what I'm getting at here is, last week in Germany, there were 2 nuclear power station cooling towers. The nuclear power station has to have a cooling tower, and they were huge big things, and I linked them underneath. Do you know what they did? They blew them up with explosives just to get it. Oh, look at that, isn't that fantastic? They blew up the 2 concrete station, and they have up to about 56,000 tons of concrete in them, and you can imagine how much CO2 gases it took to build those. And they could have left them there in case, but they've made sure that no future government will build nuclear power. Now, if there ever was a definition of madness, when Russia is winning the war, when Germany is ramping up to attack and provide military power to attack the Russians and need all their armaments and industrial power they can get, to blow up a simple source of existing electricity generation, which could be used for electric arc furnaces, manufacture of cars, manufacture of tanks, manufacture of weapons of war and airplanes and drones. They blow them up. That'll show you the depth of the madness of the German people and the danger of ever letting them have a say, and they have a big, big say in Ireland. Just think of that. To destroy, not, it's bad enough to decommission them and wind them down, but to destroy them. It's there online. I'll post a link. It's a German sounding long name, doesn't matter. So that'll tell you. Now, this was in response to the Fukushima disaster in Japan, and there the tsunami of 2004, I think it was, happened on Stevens's Day, flooded a nuclear power station with environmental impacts. But would you believe it, Japan has increased its nuclear power use. I think it has 33 nuclear power stations. So Japan took a hit and decided it was still worth continuing with the nuclear power, and Germany got no hit and is not in a position to be hit by tidal waves or whatever they call them, tsunamis, and it decommissioned its nuclear power. This is some madness, and Friedrich Merz, the Prime Minister, could have stopped this. He could have stopped it. So we're dealing with mad villains. And I've said before, what they're going to do is they're going to try and get the Irish, any European country that is relatively logical, sensible and wise, and Ireland is still a bit more sensible than most, and even the United States, which has to fight the end, they have to look after their own security, and they have a massive army, and that didn't come out of nowhere. It comes out of military and industrial development. And they have nuclear power too. So Germany, when they realise they have destroyed their own capacity to fight and won't let their sons and daughters into the war in Ukraine, they'll stretch out for the rest of Europe and try and get America. They'll not get America into it, I don't think, but that's a guess, but definitely they'll try to get Ireland in. And the current government in Dublin will conscript every Irishman and every Irish woman. Now remember, I think you will see advertisements on the television quite soon for recruits for the Irish Defence Forces, and my advice is have nothing to do with it, because that's what it's about. Now, we always had an army and something that did peacekeeping and that's grand, but there's no guarantee. Once you're in, you're under the conscription. They can, you're a member of the Defence Forces. You're not a free person, and they will make you do what they want. And if it's Germany that's in charge of your deployment, you'll be in Ukraine before you can look around you. And you'll have no mobile phone there, believe that. Now, the election of Catherine Connolly has been noticed all around the world. The riots at City West have been noticed all around the world. And so our government here is very embarrassed by the whole thing. But Catherine Connolly is an extreme socialist. We know that. But funny enough, she's anti-war. She's anti-war. She'll not support a war with Europe. So in one way, there'll be some good. You know, every cloud has a silver lining, whereas Heather Humphreys would have, in you go, everyone lifted. And don't forget, when the war comes on, the well-connected people with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, they'll be commissioned officers. I saw that in the Guards. Fellas would arrive into the Gardaí, I was in the Gardaí, and you'd find out that they were connected with political parties, and their careers take off. They could get any station they want, any transfer, any post they wanted, and some of them would not be fit to be officers, so they wouldn't make them officers. Some of them wouldn't be fit, and they would make them officers. Some of them, the local guards and sergeants had to get them away on the holidays for 2 weeks to raid their friends' places for drugs. That happened in exceptional cases, I have to say, but it did happen. Some of them were completely unsuitable. So when the war comes, the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael connects will all be the top people, irrespective of whether they're suitable or not, and your son or daughter will be there, wise and steady, with his rifle in his hand, and he'll get an order above, charge, and you'll be expected to charge into the Russians, and you'll get him home in a box. Now, Catherine Connolly has also called the Hamas integrated in Gaza society. She says they're part of society, they're not separate. She has said that in an interview. But she has also called the Israelis terrorists. So we now have a president in Dublin, which our government feels should tread carefully on the Israeli question, and there's no doubt the suffering there has been terrible. But when the Irish people got their say, that had weighed a bit on them. That weighed down a bit. Oh, look at the death and destruction. And Catherine Connolly got a good deal of votes, 63%, on many things, but that was one. She was a candidate who they can partly rely on to complain and to complain and row in on the side of the Gaza people. That's going to cause major friction between the Jews, the state of Israel, and the Trump administration, which is Israel is essentially a 51st state of America. Couldn't last a week without it. So there's going to be tension there. And I know people who voted for Catherine Connolly, and they did it specifically to give the Irish government a good kick in the ass, a good kick in the ass. So there's 11 minutes, folks. Is there anything else I can cover now? All the commentators on the war all say the same thing. Europe has no infrastructure to fight a war. It has no capacity for industry to produce weapons or anything else, and America is not doing well either. The Russians have a massive arsenal and a massive capacity to wage war. They're the second most powerful military in the world, and whatever happens, if there is a war, that nobody's going to get either the Indians or the Chinese to fight on the west side. Long ago they might get the Chinese to say something to Russia or try and get on their way, but no, they're all the one now. They're all members of BRICS. So essentially the United States and Canada, which has a very ailing economy as well, it's not doing well, it's full of woke as well. The United States and Europe will be on their own, and they're only about 18% of the population of the world, if even that. Don't we not argue with the figures there. So there's the story, folks. But just to finish up, imagine with the war looming, and with Germany foursquare behind combating Russia and calling it a Putin a criminal, and Russia an invader and a terrorist state. Despite the history, they decommission and destroy their nuclear power stations. When you see that going on, it brings back memories of Adolf Hitler. Mad but ingenious in ways, mad and determined, trying to make up for by determination and pure guile or pure strength of purpose, trying to make up for, using it to make up for the lack of brains, the lack of wisdom, the lack of basic common sense. And they expect everyone, including the Irish, and will expect, look, we whether you believe we're idiots or not, we're going to fight them and you must come in. So that's what's ahead. So that could be a factor in the election anyway. It's not bothering me. The House of Cards may fall. I don't know. I don't know how things are going to go. The whole markets and everything's mad. Someone commented there they don't like me talking about inflation or money. I just wonder why that is. I mean, everyone needs money, and some people would move house and everything if they had the money, so I'm just not able to fathom that one out. Right, folks, that's it. I'll see you back. It's a good, nice morning here. Oh, just on the electricity generation in Ireland, wind is currently producing 1,700 megawatts out of a capacity of 4,000. So 17 out of 1,400, 1,700 out of 40. Out of 4,000. Are you with me there? That's less than half. Solar is none at the moment. It's producing nothing. Now, if you look on EirGrid's dashboard, it says that renewables are supplying 69%. Now, if you take it that with the wee bit of solar and all, it's less than half of the total capacity. Total demand is 5,000 megawatts. Total renewables is 2,000 megawatts. 2 into 5, what's that? That's about 41%, is it? 40%. 40% of the grid is provided right now by renewables, and it's quite calm. The wind farm has stopped. The other ones are just going around very slow, but in other parts of the country they're doing something, they must be. So assuming that that's all true, they're saying that 40% of the total demand for electricity at the minute is what has been produced. I've yet to say that renewables account for 69% of the demand, and that is how they're lying. That there is a blatant utter lie there. That's a lie. The time now is about 10 o'clock, I think. I have my other phone here. It's about 10 o'clock, and you can check it there yourself for the morning. Check it from 9:30 to 10:30 on the 27th of October 2025, and you'll see that at this point the actual contribution of renewable energy is 40%, but that the EirGrid Smart Dashboard reports the contribution at 69%. So therefore EirGrid is telling lies. This is outrageous. This is how these lies will come back to haunt many countries and many governments and many institutions that use them. Can I say any more? Very good video, I think. We'll see you back soon. Comment underneath. Good luck. Bye-bye.